most of it from here, just because it's, but, yeah, okay, if I need it, okay. It's okay. Okay, we're going to get the meeting underway now. So I'll call the meeting to order, and I'm going to ask Ellen to lead us in the opening prayer and our in memoriam.
We bow in prayer. Gracious and loving God, for this new morning and its light, for rest and shelter, health and food, for love of family and friends, may we be reminded of your goodness and say thank you. Guide the flow of this meeting, and may we hear you and your voice, that we might follow your word, your will, and your way. Speak, for your people are listening. Amen. In memoriam, God is with us. God's love unites us. God's purpose steadies us. God's spirit comforts us. Blessed be God forever. O God, creator of all life, help us to accept death as part of life, trusting in your goodness and great love for every one of us. We feel now the pain of parting with a loved one, but we rejoice that so many were privileged to experience life with them. We entrust Robin Bellamy and Fred Totkill to you in death, as in life you entrusted them to us. We pray in sincerity and hope. Amen. It occurred to me that this may very well be the 100th annual meeting held in this building, since our worship began here in 1923, the fall of 1923, and this is our 1923 annual meeting. So, many years of history here. There's copies of the agenda. I hope everyone's had them. We will go through the agenda briefly on the PowerPoint, just so that you can see what it is if you don't have a copy, if you're watching at home. And then we'll do a motion to approve the agenda. So Betty's going to flip through the slides. So we'll be starting with the opening motions, then the approval of the 2 sets of congregational meeting minutes, dealing with the annual report and presentation of the 2023 financial statements and budget. Then we'll deal with nominations, looking to the future, thank yous, closing prayer, and adjournment of the meeting. So I would take a motion to accept that as our agenda. So Mary Canning's moved it. Trish Reed seconded. Okay. Any additions? Okay. All in favor of accepting the agenda? Okay. Any opposed? That's carried. In the United Church, people who are members on the roll have the right to vote and participate fully in
congregational meetings, and the congregation can also authorize adherents, who are people who haven't formally become members but who do support the congregation on a more or less regular basis, to also have full voting rights at the meeting. And we generally do that, so I would take a motion to give the adherents who are present full voting rights. And Trish has moved that, and Shirley Scott seconded. Any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. We had 2 sets of minutes that are in the annual report. Our annual meeting, which was held last year on May 28th, and our special congregational meeting that was held on November 30th. So Jesse, would you move acceptance of the 2 sets of minutes?
I move that the minutes be accepted.
Okay. Seconder for that, Betty McCullough. Any questions about the minutes? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Okay. So we now move into the accountability reports that were included in the annual report. And I had written down the page numbers, but now So these are all the reports, starting with our minister's report and going up to the financial statements. So it's up to page 18 from page 8 to page 18. So those are the reports that we're dealing with right now. Did anyone who had submitted a report have any update they wanted to make, or anyone have any questions about any of the reports? Okay, I'm going to take a motion to accept or to receive the accountability reports. Somebody like to move that? Shirley Scott. And seconder, Norma Gret. Okay, so any last chance for questions? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. And as you will have seen from reading them, there's a huge amount of work that went on in the church last year. So I'll now invite Norma to present the 2023 financial statements and 2024 budget.
Hi, I'm here to present the financial information. I decided that posting up all of the financial statements is overwhelming, frankly. And so, they're all there for you in the report. And I'm just going to go through briefly with the single point to make, at the end. We did okay last year, and relative to the budget. And just so that you're aware, the budget for the Toby's and Dorothy's place for next year is a 6-month budget. They are presently in the process of putting together, procedures, and I've spoken with the, via email, with the treasurer for Rainbow Community Places, and some of the administrative costs, such as the telephone, and they had a Microsoft 365 subscription. Those ones have all been rolled over to the new body, and so it would appear to me that the 6 months is probably fairly accurate, at which point they will be operating independently. At the moment, we're still taking care of the programming costs, so that's what's showing up there in the budget. For the church, you probably can see from the financial statements how reliant we were on the bequest money that came through. It amounted to about $5,400 a month that we were drawing from the bequest funds to pay our general expenses. And just to put that in context, we would need an additional 54 regular monthly contributors giving $100 a month in order to cover the costs that we are taking now out of the bequest funds. So it's a fair amount that we're taking out every year. So we got the second installment. And this is not in any way a request for anyone who is presently giving monthly to be increasing their contribution, because it would amount to an additional $200 each for those of you who are giving. It's really just to illustrate the reason why we have Ellen investigating further the prospect of amalgamation or closure. We just don't have the funds to cover our financial obligations on a monthly basis, because of course in the first year that I was here, which was 2021, we had the wage subsidies and they were a godsend, frankly, during the COVID pandemic. At the end of the following year, we got the TUC grant that helped us to cover costs. And then last year, we had some of the TUC funds. The United Church withdrew the loan when we let them know that we had the bequest funds, which honestly makes sense from their point of view. But we did have some TUC funds to cover some of the costs of the separate incorporation of the new charity, and that all came through this year. Although I indicated what was covered by the bequest, it would have been completely muddled if I tried to include in there as well what was covered by TUC. So some of those administrative costs, such as the legal costs, were covered by the TUC funds last year as well. But the incorporation has all gone through, and as I said, everything is rolling forward. But really, my main point for the day is the fact of the costs exceeding what we're bringing in revenue. So we will have a small additional bequest installment once their final tax return goes through. I included that in the revenues. I'm not sure whether it'll actually come through this year or not, but I think based on when they said they submitted their tax returns, although I must confess that this is strictly based on what I know about my parents' final tax returns, but I assume that'll probably come through. It usually is in the last week of the year, which is when we received both of our bequest installments, the first and second one. No guarantee, but I've included that in the budget for next year. But the fact is, when the bequest money runs out, we will be in a fairly significant budget deficit every month. It was about $6,000 before. It's probably in around that now. We used $5,400 last year, but as I said, some expenses were covered by TUC. And in addition, we received some money from the trustees to cover the some of the foundation repairs as well. You know, so we had different sources of funding last year that we can't rely on going forward. So that is really my description of the church finances at this stage of the game. Does anyone have any questions? No? Oh, yes.
This isn't a question. This is a fervent thank you to Norma and to Ines for all the work they do keeping the finances straight. Whenever you talk about it, it makes my head hurt.
Well, now you can understand why I went into librarianship as opposed to accounting in my initial career choice. Yeah, you know, if anything does occur to you, I think I included my phone number there in the treasurer's report. So if any questions do arise, I'd be happy to you know, to answer them. Or if anyone would like the detailed financial statements, which I must confess are 15 pages long. So just brace yourself for the impact if I have to send them to you. But they provide, you know, quite a bit of detailed background, so you can see. For example, you know, what went into givings, you know, what's in that miscellaneous category for revenues, mainly interest last year, but it might help you to, you know, understand what the bits and pieces are that make up those totals. Okay, I guess now do we put through a motion to approve the financial statements?
Receive your financial report and approve the budget, I guess.
Okay. Okay. But I'll move that.
Yeah. Okay. So if we can have a motion to receive the financial report and approve the financial statements and budget for the 2024 budget. Okay, so Michelle and Linda. So I guess there were no questions, so I'll just call all in favor. Any opposed? Okay, that's carried. So our next item on the agenda are the nominations for the church board and officers and other leadership positions. And there's three slides that show these. There is one change to what's on the slides, and that is that Doug Bellamy is taking over from Mary Cannings as the chair of the worship ministry team, but Mary is willing to stay on the board as a member at large, so we will make that one change to the list. In terms of changes from last year, Michelle has stepped down as rental coordinator, and want to thank Michelle very, very much for the kind of innovative things that she's done in rentals that have helped to bring up our rental revenue considerably. So thank you, Michelle. But Michelle's got a new ministry that she's been spearheading for the last couple of years, which is our community garden. And so we're making that now a board position of community garden coordinator so that we can get regular updates through the growing season and maybe some tomatoes. Yeah. And otherwise, I think what's on the screen. Oh, okay. So, yeah. So there's yeah. Go back one more, Betty. Go back. No. Go up on the. Yeah. Okay. So the first slide is the sort of officer positions. The second slide are the committees, task groups, trustees. And then the third slide are the ministry coordinators and indicating who is on the ministry teams that have like worship and pastoral care. And we are looking for someone who would take on the ministry of spiritual growth. And most of the ministry teams would be happy to have any new members if anyone feels called to those areas of ministry. So I would ask for a motion to approve the nominations as set out on the list, but with the one change to add Mary Cannings as a board member at large on the board. So would somebody move that? Okay. I'll take Shirley because she's not on the board. Or, yeah. So Shirley Scott, and the seconder, Margaret Robertson. Okay. Okay. Anyone want to volunteer for anything else? Most of the people who are here are pretty involved. So, okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Which would definitely give you a job. Okay, that's carried. Okay, looking to the future, just a few quick updates. As Norma said, Rainbow Community Places is moving forward well. We have 5 active board members and a 6th who's volunteered, as well as a couple of people who are helping on subcommittees. So the work is moving ahead. The big need right now is, guess what? Money. We've got to have enough in the bank to cover the salary expenses for the last half of the year before we can do the transition. We've put in an application for a Seeds of Hope grant, and we've got some other fundraising things underway, but that's the big worry at this point, and we're working hard and we're keeping in hope. We've been approached by 2 other churches for help with setting up Toby's Place type programs, so we're looking at how that might be structured, and so there's plenty going on there. Trish? Yeah.
So the participants at Dorothy's Place have expressed an interest.
Do you want to use the mic so that they can? Yeah. So. Yeah. To pull it
So
down.
the participants at Dorothy's Place have expressed an interest in getting to know church members. So they are offering an invitation to come to Dorothy's Place on Monday at 11:30 to about 1:30, just to say hi and to get to know you. And so I'm putting it out there to you because I didn't know they felt that way. So.
We're doing cooking workshops for the next 10 weeks if folks are interested.
Yeah, there's cooking workshops for the next 10 weeks at Dorothy's Place, so it should be interesting.
11:30 a.m. to 2 p.m.
You should be up here.
Okay. Any questions about that? Yeah. Okay. The redevelopment task group, we've had some meetings with Kindred Works, and things haven't been all moving in the direction that we'd hoped, so we're waiting for a response now. Is there anything else, either Adriana or Michelle, that you want to add? Or? No? Okay. Yeah. It's, yeah, work in progress, so, okay. And the discussion of future possibilities. We did send out a survey. It was a little bit late going out. So Ellen's been doing some church visits to some of the churches in our general vicinity. None have leaped out as strong prospects for amalgamation. But as you've heard from Norma, without a fairly major change in the next couple of years, we're going to be facing some pretty severe financial decisions, serious financial decisions, so we do need to be looking ahead. There were a few responses to the survey in terms of what people might be interested in if we were going to find an amalgamation partner. They were all, it depends, and the factors that were identified were most of what was on the survey page: location, service time, theology. Music was a very big one. Affirming congregation, familiarity with people in the congregation, familiarity with the minister, how many other people are coming, and just generally finding a welcoming congregation in Birchcliff or in a nearby location. We didn't get any responses from people who watch online to the question of what would bring them back or help them to come in person. In terms of if you want the church to continue, what are your suggestions for revitalizing the congregation and how can you help? Some suggestions were pray, continue to be welcoming, reach out to church friends and community, research what other faiths are doing that does and doesn't work, Bible study, more sing-alongs, socialize and make visitors feel connected. And those who responded are all people who are already very active and I guess doing as much as they feel they can take on at this time. So we just wanted to do a bit of a straw poll mainly for people who hadn't weren't able to respond to the survey. So I guess generally, if we were to amalgamate, and would that involved a move to our amalgamating partners' church building, would you come? And the answers we offered were yes, no, or it depends. So I'll take yes, no, and it depends. Okay. And in terms of the factors that would influence you, you can answer as much as many as you might like. I guess location, parking, ease of access by TTC. That's a few people. Accessible building, like an elevator. Yeah. the service time, availability of online worship. Okay, theology, types of ministries, music. That one got by far the most affirming congregation, familiarity with people in the congregation, familiarity with the minister, so, and how many other BBUC members are coming. So it's not critical. Okay. So does anyone have any thoughts around how we should go ahead with these investigations? Sounds like there is sort of general interest in wanting the church to continue, whether it's independently or in collaboration or relationship with another church. So, so Adriana, do you? Paisley, can I kick this out?
Oops. Oh, no.
Hang on.
How come it's not working?
It's not on just like a community line up here. I'll turn it back on. Hold on.
My question is, in terms of amalgamation, and it might help other churches as well, we can't be the only United Church of Canada that's struggling. And is there any possibility to approach Shining Waters Regional Council and get all the churches together, have a meeting? Like, everybody must be looking at their budgets, looking at their membership, looking at, declining volunteerism. We're all struggling, so if we have a common meeting hosted over a series of a few months, hopefully that could be coordinated through some higher body, but getting everybody together and figuring out where they're headed as churches, and if they're looking at amalgamation, or what are their future possibilities. And in terms of how that might fit into possible redevelopment that we're exploring here, is that if we ever redevelop this space, other churches that might be looking at declining in their membership, if they wanted to join a new redeveloped space, they could offer, declining, members or aging members like iPads, and find ways to incorporate the other, congregations that if they do eventually close, that they might want to join like one church, like find 2 or 3 churches and put them together. That's just one idea that I had. And approaching, different ethnicities, that they might be looking for a space to practice their faith, and they might be wanting to come into a space such as ours. So those are my ideas to help our church.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
We have actually asked the region about that, and we will be following up on it. So, yeah. Okay, any other thoughts?
I guess one of the things I should have mentioned when we were doing the task for redevelopment is we've been spending a lot of time meeting with the region and Kindred Works. And part of it is that we're trying to develop a new idea. It hasn't, is it okay, Beth, if I share that?
Sure.
Okay, one of the ideas that we were thinking of is transforming this building partially with the library and with the government, but also creating, hopefully, a place for the food bank, as well as the ministries, Verming Ministries, and as well as a chapel, that we could have our own church. But those ideas are now in the air. It's very new concept. The region has never done anything like this before, and neither has Kindred Works. So we're in the process right now what that might look like. And we haven't signed any agreement yet. So if this is something that you want to see happen, we need to hear voices. Because if that's something you want, we have to let the region know that this is a possibility. And I'm certainly wanting that personally, but it is an idea. And one of the things we're trying to work towards, and I don't know if it's okay to say this, but part of it is that we want the rental, like we know the library and the government is going to create housing. And one of the ideas that I'm trying, as well as Adriana, to try to create a percentage of units for members of the BBUC or anyone who's of a United Church family. And that is something that I would like to see happen here. And if this is something you would like to see happen, we need to hear those voices because it's a possibility. If we need voices to make that happen, because without those voices, that can't happen. And housing is a very desperate need, but we have to hear what your idea of housing is going to look like for this building, for the library, for the government and everything. So it's all up in the air, but we have to hear voices on it.
Okay, but we have been told pretty clearly that the financing model does not allow sort of priority to be given. Anyone can apply, or if it's the market housing, any church members or anybody else in the community can apply for it, but with the subsidized housing, it generally comes off the city's list. So, however, there is another model that is kind of along the lines of that's the Regent Park Community Ministry. It's housed in affordable housing in Regent Park, and when it was first set up, there was a congregation there as well. The congregation has since closed, but so it's not a totally new model. It's kind of an emerging model. So anyway, as Michelle said, it's a work in progress, and we're in discussions. But and we certainly would like input. Tricia.
So what I think and what I keep finding confusing is it always sounds like we're talking about two completely separate things when we talk about amalgamation and then we talk about redevelopment. And I personally don't believe those are two completely separate concepts. I think that amalgamation could include the kind of thing that Adriana was talking about, where you're sort of bringing churches from all over together to talk about what the common problems are and solutions to them. And it's sort of like dating, right? Like you're dating these other churches and trying to find out where you have, things in common, where you have problems in common and that kind of thing, which might not be the complete end to things. And that part is something that has to happen, but it can happen while the investigation about redevelopment of this particular place is going on, because that might be a slightly lengthy process, like it's not going to be tomorrow that happens, but it doesn't shut any doors. There's no doors that get shut. So I really, from my Libra perspective, it's like keeping all the doors open. But we have to take action. Like that's what I think. I see Michelle and Adriana and Beth are taking action on the redevelopment side, and I think we need to be taking action on the meeting other congregation side so that we can move forward with some idea. that the legacy, really, of Birchcliff Bluffs goes on in whatever form that is, because there is, even on a shoestring budget, we're doing amazing things that other churches are just not doing. Like, I know other churches that have like a pocket full of cash in the bank, and they're deciding to close. You know, oh, we'll just go on for 5 years and then we'll close. And I think, well, that's not what I hear here. You know, oh, we want to do this. We want to launch Rainbow Community Places. We want to do a redevelopment. We want to go here. We want to go there. And we don't have that pockets of cash in the bank. And I think that it's the inspiration that this body of people has that, in my mind, really embodies the message of Christ about bringing, you know, love and care into the community. So that's me getting mushy, but that's what I think. So it's really about, these things are not separate. They can be part of the same vision.
Yeah, thank you, Trish. Very good summation, I think. Any other comments, questions? Okay. Well, everyone knows, you know, who to talk to if you have new ideas. So we're always open to them, and I guess we'll definitely pass on to Randy that music is a high priority here, and that there is definitely a wish for another sing-along. So that message was loud and clear. Okay, I want to move to the thank yous. Everyone here deserves a big thank you for all you do. A special thank you to Ellen for continuing to walk with us as we try and figure out which forks in the road to take, and usually end up trying to take them all at once, but that's and Randy and Jane for all the work that they do and all they give to our church. And the board members, we meet every month, and there's always lots to cover. A huge thank you to Norma, as Mary already said, for keeping our finances on track. It's not an easy job at all, especially with all the adjustments back and forth between the affirming ministries, and and Norma and Inez do a really good job of that. Just one bright spot on Dorothy's Place, we just got a $14,000 grant from Wood Green Community Services, which we'd applied for it last fall, and we'd kind of given up on it because we hadn't heard anything, and then all of a sudden we did. So that's funding the cooking program that's going on for the next 10 weeks, which will make for some interesting lunches at Dorothy's Place, and so some good news there. And thank you to Paisley and Julian and Mac, our affirming ministry staff. They're very, very hard working and do an amazing job of networking and getting out in the community and letting people know that the programs are here. And obviously we're become very well known through the church because we've had 2 requests, as I said, for help with setting up new programs. So I think there's nothing else on the agenda. We'll move to our closing prayer, and I'll declare the meeting adjourned. So anything else? Going once, going twice?
Beth, on behalf of the people of Birchcliff Bluffs United Church, we extend to you a very deep, sincere thank you for all the work you do for us in our name. We know that change is slow in coming, but you hang in there every minute of every day, and most people don't know the kind of hours you spend, but I can assure them we couldn't afford to pay your rate. So thank you for all you do on our behalf. Gracious and loving God, indeed, our time together has come to an end. You have spoken. We have heard some of what you had to say, and you have given us something to think about. Please, as we leave this place, come with us and help us to mull over what the future looks like in your name and how we can help. Be with us in the week ahead, we pray, and thank you. Amen.
So I'll declare our meeting adjourned, and thank you everyone for coming and for your participation.